Welcome back to Code with Django, and today I wanted to make a very brief tutorial on how to make a madlib in C++. I've done zero planning prior to this tutorial. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do this under Replit since this is the easiest way to compile a C++ program without having to go through Visual Studio. So go to replit.com. I already have an account, but you can sign up here. I'm going to click login. And I think my username is mck144. I don't honestly remember my Replit login, and I should have done that. Oh, it looks like I did Google. Okay. Okay, so ignoring that bad login, once you log in, you'll be able to go to home, and then you'll see, if you click on these three lines in the corner, you'll be able to click create, and we're going to do this in C++. So we're going to choose the C++ template and call it madlib, and then create REPL. Okay, so I'm going to delete all the starter code because we're going to do it again, but with a better explanation. So I'm going to go through all this really quickly. I have a timer going. I want to keep this under 10 minutes. But I'm going to start with the main program. We want to make a madlib, but we got several steps to go before that. So I'm going to make the main program. Int main return 0. So what does any of this mean? So int main parentheses, that's your function. This is the main function. Every C++ program has a main function, and it's where the program starts. Return 0 is just the end of that function. So this is the main command, what we'll be executing when our program runs. Everything in between this curly bracket and this curly bracket is a part of that command. So we need more things to work with first, though, because we want to do console output and input to do the madlib. But to do that, we require external tools. So I'm going to type at the top, #include IOStream. IOStream is a library that's going to give us the console input and output functionality we need to create the madlib here. But one more thing we need to do before we can even work on the madlib. So this is our main program. We are including the tools for our console input and output. Since again, the way the madlib is going to work is it's going to say like enter a noun, and then you enter a noun, and then it gives you the story. There once was a man named, like that. So we're going to program this to where it asks for us to enter all the words, and then it puts the words at the end. Just a basic madlib. If you don't know what a madlib is, you should probably look that up first. All right, but we have include IOStream to get the tools for console input and output. But now we need to specify that the IOStream is a part of the standard library. So I'm going to type using namespace standard, like that. And this is all the setup you need. Include the tools, specify where the tools come from, the standard library, and the main function. So with that, now here's how you output a command. cout, angle bracket, hello world. And then end every line with a semicolon that is not this line or has a curly bracket. So for the rest of the code I'm going to be writing, I'm going to be ending the line of code with a semicolon. I'm going to click run. And I get hello world. That's how you do console output, putting a message here, outputting a message on the console. And let me just show you a few more tricks about cout before we keep going. You can, cout's basically like a train. This is the start of the train. This is a link between the train cars. This is one chain car. I can add another chain car. I can add another chain car. And I can add the end L, which basically means end this line and move the cursor down to the next line. So let's see what that looks like. We're going to get hello world by Matt. Okay, easy enough. That's console output. And so let's do some console output for the start of our madlib. I'm going to cout, and I'll add a bunch of stars for our title. And L. Remember, you always need to add another set of angle brackets. This is the link between the train cars. This is one train car. This is another train car. There needs to be a link between all of them. So I'm going to do that again. Madlib project. And L. See out. Stars. And that's just going to make a nice title for our game. I'm going to click run. Okay, and we get the title. So now let's keep going and let's move on to the variables. So we need basically make a story. Let's plan out the story. I'm going to do that at the bottom. There once was a man named blank. So I'm going to let them fill in the name. Who loved eating blank. So that's going to be a food. But then one day, blank, the name from before, tripped on a blank and felt blank. So this is how we're going to start this. We have a story, we have our blanks, and we're going to let the program fill in the blanks. So what is our first blank? A name. The second blank, a food. Then this one is also a name. This one is going to be a noun. And this last blank is going to be an adjective. He felt blank. So now let's ask the user. That's how a madlib works. You do this with your family and you tell them to enter words. Well, we're going to do this with the computer. I'm going to say see out, enter a name, colon, semicolon. I'm not going to do end line here because if I did that, then in the console they would have enter a name, but then I type the name down here because I ended the line. I would rather type the name right alongside the colon. So that's why I'm doing that. So see out, enter a name. See in, that's the console input command. Oh, but first we need to create the name variable. And for that, we're going to use a string. So a variable, let me just summarize variables. A variable is simply a word in C++ that stores information. So like int a is an integer named a that stores 90. Bool b is a true or false value that stores true. String name is a word that stores Matt. That's all a variable is. It's a word and it stores a specific value. So let's create our variables first. We need string name, then we need food, so string food. Then we need name again, so we already got that. Object, so string noun. I should basically call this object because noun is too general. And last one, adjective, string adjective. So those are all our variables. And by the way, when you create a variable, you don't immediately have to set it to something. You can just put the name in a semicolon and you can do that later. So we have our variables for our madlib, our title, our variables. We have, and now we're going to ask for the name. So I'm going to cin name. That stands for console input. The angle brackets are reversed, which signals that we're going to be inputting a value. And then what value are we inputting? Name. So now name is going to receive whatever we typed in the console. Let's make sure this works. We'll see in name and then we'll see out name. Now I'm going to click run. And I get an error. And that's because I forgot to do one thing. I need string is a special tool. Just like cout and cin are tools that need to come from IOStream. Well, string is also a tool. So I'm going to type include, #include, string. I forgot to do that earlier. String is a special variable in that case. But let's click run again. Oh, yeah, it's also complaining because I put non-code down here. So I'm going to comment these out and get rid of them. All right, we got our title. Enter a name, Bob. And it gives Bob right back. We enter the name, then we output the name. And that's good enough. So I'm going to get rid of this end L here. Like I said, I want the input to be on the same line. So now let's enter the rest of the values. We're going to see out. And now we're going to do, let's do enter. We'll do the next one. Enter a food. C in food. But notice something interesting happens when you do this. When I click run, we get our title, enter name, Matt. This time I get to type Matt right along the title because I got rid of that end line there. Enter a food. Actually, never mind. I thought that the line output would be messed up, but it's actually fine here. I'm going to enter a food, pizza. All right, but we get nothing. So let's keep going. Let's finish this up. See out. Because my mouth hurts, and this is a really dumb idea. Okay, enter an object. C in object. Finally, see out. Enter an adjective. C in ADJ. So now we've done the part, we've given the title, we have our variables, and again, a variable, I went through this really quickly, but a variable just stores information. It's a little named part in memory. We start with what kind of variable it is, string. A string is a word. Then what the name of the variable is, and then we give those variables some values down here. Other variable types include int, which is a number, float, which is a decimal point number that ends in F. Char is a letter that you make with single quotes. You saw this earlier. Bool is a true or false value. True. But that's how all the variables are. Just a little name that we give a word. We start with what kind of variable it is, then the name, and then we give it a value. So we have our variables, we have our output here. Now let's create the rest of the story. See out. There once was a man named, and remember, see out is a train. This is the start of the train. This is a train link. This is one car. We're going to link another car, but this car is going to be name. So we're not going to put a message here. We're going to put our variable name right here. And I'm going to stop the line right there. I'm just going to click I'm going to add the semicolon. I'm going to show you what this looks like so far. Enter a name, Matt. Enter a food. I'm going to skip these since we're not using them yet. There once was a man named Matt. So notice, when I use the variable, the program automatically knew to output Matt because that was a value. Now guys, don't make this mistake. Don't do this. Don't put name in quotation marks because then you're not telling cout to output the actual value of the name variable. You're telling cout to output the word name. Because if I did that, it doesn't matter if I type in Matt in the console. There once was a man named name. So when you're coding your madlib, don't make this mistake. Make sure that when you're using a variable, it is not in quotes. All right, there once was a man named name. That's good enough for that first line, so let me end the line. Remember, end L just moves the cursor down, starts a new line. See out. Name loved eating food. I'm just adding all the rest of our variables up here. Notice I have to put a space here because cout does not automatically add spaces. If I did this without a space on either end of this message in the middle, see what it would look like. I'm going to put Matt and pizza. Matt, pizza, blah, blah. There once was a man named Matt. Matt loved eating pizza. So it's really bad formatting here. There's no space in between Matt and loved and eating pizza, which is why we need spaces here. So that's another mistake that's really easy to make that you got to watch for. So there's our second line. Now let's finish this up. But then one day, name tripped on a object and felt running out of space here. So if you're doing this in Replit and your line gets too long, it's automatically going to wrap over here. Don't worry about that. Just keep coding like it was normal. Adjective. And that's it. There, we're going to see out there once was a man named Name. Name loved eating food. See out, but then one day, Name tripped on a object and felt adjective. So now let's run this whole thing. Oh no, I made a mistake. Let's see what it was. Now it really bothers me when Replit does this because it makes it like almost impossible to tell where the error is. It just, spams all these random nonsense stuff. So let's see where it is. See out. Oh, I did end instead of end L. All right, let's see the finished product. Matt, enter a food. Dogs. Enter an object. Okay, what am I going to trip on? See, that's what makes a madlib fun. You don't know what it's going to be, but I know what it's going to be ahead of time, so I'm just going to put just box. Enter an adjective. Unbalanced. Okay, there once was a man named Matt. Matt loved eating dogs, but then one day Matt tripped on a box and felt unbalanced. And that's it. So let's add a space in between the enter an adjective and the there once was. That's really easy. I'm just going to add C out and L. In fact, let's make it 2 end lines. That way it's not going to do that again. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm just going to type in some random values. And look, we get 2 nice lines. That's nice formatting there. And that's how you make a madlib. So what I'd like you guys to do, if you're following along with this is a really bad madlib example, but like you can make a way better story. Just plan out your story at the bottom. You can use slash marks so that it doesn't actually affect your code. But you can plan out your story at the bottom, and then you're going to add it just like this. Add your title, create your variables first, then enter each variable. Cin is our console input command, or our console input object. We're going to use the angle brackets and then the name of the variable. So just make your variables, enter them in, and output your story. Remember, cout is one long train. So I cannot have example and then example because I'm putting 2 train cars together without any link. So remember that as you're doing this, you need to make sure you have the 2 curly brackets, the 2 angle brackets in between each word. Just think of this as a train. And that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. And best of luck as you make your own madlib projects. Oh, and by the way, if you do make a madlib project, you can very easily send the link to the Replit project. If you're doing it on Replit, you can easily just finish this up and then send the link to your project and just comment the link so I can check out what you made.